Welcome to Intentionality with Dominique, the show that helps business owners become valued and in-demand suppliers in the marketplace to scale their businesses. Let's start today's show with host and intentional connector, Dominique Simpson Milton.
Intentionality with Dominique is designed to spotlight successful entrepreneurs, those who've made it past the critical 10-year mark and have valuable insights to share. Their journeys offer lessons that can help less experienced business owners avoid common pitfalls and grow stronger, faster. Because the more businesses that we can help survive, the stronger our economy becomes. We also feature corporate leaders who have been intentional in opening doors of opportunity for diverse suppliers and small business owners. Today, we're spotlighting Dennis Hempstead, President and CEO of Clean World USA, one of my favorite people. Dennis, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Dominique.
Yes.
Glad to be here.
Thank you for being here. So Dennis, Clean World USA has been in business for 39 years. That is such an incredible milestone. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Yes. What inspired you to start the company, and how has your mission evolved over time, Dennis?
Well, to tell you the truth, is very funny. What inspired me to start the company was I got my first job out of college, and in 3 months I was laid off. And I went to the bosses and I said, why am I being laid off? They said, it has nothing to do with you. It's just our company we went down. And so we're having to basically almost close the doors. So I told myself, I said, I'll never get laid off another job again. That depends on someone else. I'm going to depend on myself. And that kind of sparked me to say, eventually I'm going to open up a business. It took me 7 years, but 7 years later, I was able to open up Clean World USA.
Now, did you have experience with cleaning when you opened the business?
Zero experience. Kind of started in that as I guess you can say I started out doing carpet cleaning. I just heard somebody talking about it. And I met a guy by the name of Larry Shaw. He was a senator at that time. He had the contract for making all the hamburgers for Sara Lee. And he also had all of the cafeteria contracts for most of the HBCUs. And so, we were riding on his yacht and all that. And I said, if he's got a yacht and he's got a plane, maybe I need to listen to what he's talking about. He told me, he said, why don't you get in the janitorial business? He said, it's a little bit more money and you can go full time with it, because I was just part time at the time of the carpet cleaning. And next month, of course, me listening to somebody that I thought had it going on, I just immediately jumped into the business with no experience. Hired me a guy to train me, a guy that knew the business. So I hired him and said, look, I want you to train me in everything about the operations that you can. I knew business because I was, they went to school for business and that type of thing.
Okay. Well, you've been wildly successful starting a business where you had no experience, but I like what you said. You had a mentor who said, this is a good business. And then because you knew you didn't know, you hired that person to help you get the business going and teach you what you needed to know. So you covered those tracks. And then you said you knew business, which was applicable for any business that you wanted to start. So kudos to you. Yes. So Dennis, let's talk about the actual business. Your company focuses on cleaning for health and appearance rather than just appearance alone. Why is that distinction so important, and how does it add value for your client?
Well, it's very important because of the fact that at one time cleaning was done just to look good. But now we found out through all the various pandemics and the things that happen in these call centers where one person gets sick and another gets sick, that you needed to be clean for health, meaning sanitizing, making sure that there were germs were being removed as well as dirt. And there's a little bit more time involved, a little bit more technique, a little bit more training. So, of course, there is a little higher price. And a lot of people, they look at cleaning as a commodity that may mainly, just like you're buying a box of salt, that your cheapest price is always the best. But we found out, and we're teaching our customers, that you want to clean for health because eventually it pays in the long run when you have a workforce that's, not 30% of them out for absenteeism because of sickness.
Excellent. That's a good niche there. So how did you fare during the pandemic?
We fared very well. In fact, people came to us And we, had the electrostatic sprayers and that type of stuff. And we started getting more contracts just to do that type of cleaning for a lot of our customers, in addition to the regular appearance cleaning. And it lasted for a good while before people go back to their old roots again. And most of that cleaning is stopped, other than maybe one or two clients that still participate.
So Dennis, what is the biggest lesson that you've learned as a business owner?
The biggest lesson that I've learned, I guess you would say, is to make sure you're always watching your business, meaning you have key indicators that you can look at that will tell you the temperature of your business, what it's doing, how it's doing, where it's going. And also, in conjunction with that, always pay attention to your employees. They're the ones in my type business. They're the ones that's my product, the employees. And so I have to pay attention to where they're at, what their needs are, how they feel about the company, working for the customer, that type of thing.
That's good. Do you have an operating system that helps you to see the numbers on any given day so you know where you are?
Absolutely. I do have a great operating system. We have, of course, the accounting system that we use that tells us after the fact, but I also have what I call, simple Excel spreadsheets that we use that take all the, I guess you say, the attributes of our business, the chemicals, the equipment, the people, how much time is being spent on a job, that type of stuff. And that's readily available every day that I can look at, and I can see what's going on in the business and why one contract might be experiencing a deficit versus another one is making money. So it's very, very essential that I have these tools to be able to evaluate the business.
That's good. So tools are important. It also helps you be able to price your services, right? Because every contract is not a good contract. So are you utilizing that tool to be able to price your services?
We definitely use that as well as historical data. We look at trends. We look at complexity. We look at what all is involved in the scope of work. And we try to detail just about every item. It's kind of like building a house. You have to know how many nails you have, how many pieces of wood, how long. Our business is the same way. We need to know every single detail and have it costed out so that we can give a competitive price.
I love that. So you're not operating blindly. You know exactly what's in place, what your costs are for every particular job, which jobs are good and which jobs are not good. And then you're on top of your employees as well. So thank you for that advice. So Dennis, you tell me how long you've been associated with CVMSDC. I know it's been a long time, but how long has it been, and how has that relationship really helped your business grow and scale?
If I'm not mistaken, and I didn't look it up, I think it's been about 25 years. When we first got involved, and we were, really out there, and we won a few awards, and, it's just been a great relationship. And I would encourage young businesses that want to go to that next level. Now, if you just want to stay, I say stay at 100,000, 300,000, but if you want to get into the millions and the tens of millions and hundreds of millions, CVMSDC is definitely the kind of company that can take you there because of the relationships that they already had established. And let's face it, business is about relationship. And so CVMSDC offers the opportunity to meet people from various businesses. And the good thing about it is in one setting, you go to an annual meeting, or you go to a planning meeting, or you go to what they call a ring meeting, and you meet all these people at one time, where you would have to go around door to door to get that same amount of frequency in your sales process.
I'm glad you said that, because when you show up in the room, it always puts a smile on my face, because I call you the OG. So when the OGs show up in the room, you're doing something right. And because it keeps me up at night, making sure that we have content that is worth you stopping and attending one of our events. But, I like to brand our organization as an economic growth engine. And I like what you said. If you want to scale and grow your business, you need to join organizations like ours. If you want to stay, at a lower level, then that's fine, right? And people can do this work on their own, Dennis, but having everybody together in the same room saves you so much time. I liken it to like an HOV lane, right? We're putting you on a fast track lane. You got to drive your own car, put your own gas in it, but we're putting you on that lane and you decide what you're going to do when you get there. So thank you for that. Yeah.
Amen.
So Dennis, building a business to scale often requires strong executive management systems and training. What are some of the key structures you put in place to ensure Clean World USA can thrive without being dependent on you day to day?
Oh, yeah, definitely. We've put systems in place where my staff and my subordinates are able to operate. Basically, we started out with our vision and our mission. Once you have a good vision statement and a good mission, people are able to always ask themselves, is this what, Dennis would want us to do based on the vision? Is this what our mission is about? And so they're able to operate independently just from that focal point of knowing what the vision and mission are. And then, of course, we have additional training where we brought in people to deal with middle management, because middle management is usually the part where people get exposed, the customer gets exposed to them more so than executive management. And those are our operations managers, our regional managers. And so we built them up with people skills. And we also brought in all types of training every month that we would do. And we would have all of our people come together and we would just go over things like the theory of cleaning, the theory of making customers happy, just all the different details of our business. And that helped us a lot as far as getting everybody on the same page.
Excellent. How many team members do you have, Dennis?
Right now, we are down to about 10. Mm-hmm. At our height, we were right at about 25 management, 250 total employees. We've kind of scaled down. Of course, I'm almost 70, and so we were planning on possibly turning over to my children. They had other plans, and so I decided that what I would do is operate where I could just manage it myself without having a lot of overhead. And as we start easing down, I'm moving more into another area, which, it's good. But this business is still giving a great profit and still, paying me well. So
let's talk about that. You started the business from nothing. You grew it to what? Can you share? You went from 0 employees?
Yeah, from 0 to about 5 million is what we were doing. And could have went further if we would have invested more into management, because as you grow in our business, it requires you to go outside of the regional boundaries. Then you have to move into other states. And so you have to hire executive management in those areas. We decided that we felt comfortable at the $5 million mark, and we stayed there for, 10 years or more, just continuously. And it helped our cash flow greatly because when you grow, you eat up cash. But when you are pretty stable, your cash catches up and then it starts accumulating. So it just depends on what your goal is. High growth companies, mainly their goal is to continue to grow, especially if they plan on going public. But lifestyle type companies, it's more about cash flow.
That's good. And cash flow is king, queen, and everything else, right? You got to have that cash flow. So I love the fact that you said, you grew from 0 to 5 million, but that's where you want to stay. And so knowing your numbers, knowing your customers, that you made that conscious decision to intentionally stay there, right? Which is fine, right? I tell people you need to be able to scale up, scale down, or stay where you are if that is what you want. But you did that intentionally, knowing the value of staying at that level.
That's your word, intentional.
That's my word. That is my word. So the other thing I want to talk about, Dennis, and you touched on it lightly, is when you start a business, you have to have a business plan to get you going. And then when you get in the middle, you have to adjust that plan for maintenance. But then you have to have a succession plan. So what is going to be your plan? You said your kids don't want to take over the business. You've, kind of scaled it down a little bit so you can manage it. But do you have an exit plan?
Yeah, we did have an exit plan, and we still do. And it was mainly just to sell the company. We've had 2 opportunities. One I backed out of at the end because I just didn't think it was right. for me. The money was good. The money was real good. Most of it was on the back end, which you're going to have to experience that in a small business like mine that doesn't have a lot of collateral assets. We're in the service business, so our asset is our people. And so in that business opportunity, I was getting some of the money up front and then having to they wanted an earn out period of 5 years. And I said, well, if I got to stay that long and earn my own money, I might as well stay in the company myself and, earn the same thing or more. Really, I was earning more and not have to sharing it. And so then my second opportunity was a husband and wife type team. They were both Wharton graduates. So they had a real good business sense. They were really interested in doing it until they got to the point to where they realized they were going to have to do a lot of hands-on, and they were more interested in buying and accumulating companies and growing like that at that level and not actually getting too involved in the operational part of it. And so that deal, they broke that one off. So I'm still actively kind of doing it. I might just go with the company is very easy to run right now because of the fact that it's very systemized. I actually am a pastor, as you know, and I'm able to spend more time with that. I'm also able to start in a new field called real estate development, which one of my partners has 3 different companies that he's running under that umbrella. And I'm helping working with them, and it's doing well. But the Clean World USA is what allows me to do this because I'm not really strained for income or capital. And so I'm basically working for him free right now with the hopes of being paid in the future.
That's good. Well, I love that you have a plan, right? And you have sized the business to fit your lifestyle, right? And so you're managing the business so that it's effective for you. So that's very good. So let's talk about, Dennis. I don't want to lose this point because you've been in business so long. I want our younger business owners to understand the sales cycle, right? So, you have to understand that there's different sales cycles. Stuff doesn't just happen overnight. Let's talk about that so people don't get disillusioned and think, I go after this customer and I'm going to get them and the money's going to start flowing. Talk to us about that sales cycle.
That sales cycle is definitely something that you need to understand and you need to build up to. And so what we started out, and I learned this when I was in corporate America, we went through a course called Efficacy. And in that course, you start out with small bites and you build your way up. Well, those small bites sustain what your management team and your regional managers and that type of thing, because you're not going to get a major contract the first day that you walk in the door. You're going to get exposed to people like I did with CVMSDC. And I remember my first major one I got was down at Roche, Carolina. And I had been working with them, seeing them and meeting with them for probably a couple of years before maybe 3 years before we actually got an opportunity to bid on the contract. I was working with Dominion Energy, which before they were I can't even think of the name of it right now. In South Carolina Electric and Gas. Yeah.
Right. SEM.
And we were working with them for years through Mamie Price and a couple other people who were bringing us in what they call spotlights. And we were able to present our company, but nobody bought on until maybe when the need happened. And then we got exposed and then we grew and that became one of our largest contracts. I think we had about $1.5 million at one time just from that one per year, just on that one contract. But those cycles are different based on what is needed. If I'm going to a doctor's office, I can go in and get signed up that next day. If I'm going to, like you say, SENG or Dominion Energy, anybody of that nature, then I'm going to take some time. And so you have to have a staying power to where you have the staff that can continuously be ready. And then when it comes time, you can send somebody out, start the contract up, to train the people. So you have to have resources to be able to do that. You can't just ramp up when they call you. You have to be ready, already ramped up. And so that's the sales cycle. So after you get a few coming in, then you start getting larger contracts coming in just about, every year because you've built up a pipeline. Right. And then you can grow from there. So it's different based on the contract.
That's good. You need a sales funnel and you need to be able to be prepared. So that's good. Excellent lesson. So I'm going to close with this, Dennis, and it ties into what we were just talking about. And is that fortune is in the follow-up. Would you agree with that and talk about how follow-up has really helped you grow your business?
Follow-up is key to anything. If you don't follow up, you're wasting your time, because sometimes people are waiting for you to see if you're going to follow up. They're ready to give you the business, but you just stand around and, well, they didn't call me. They're not supposed to call you. You are the one selling your goods and services. So, I hate to use the analogy, but those drug dealers that are out there on the street, man, they're hounding it every day. Every single day, they're hitting people. And I don't know where they learned that from, but if they could take some of that same skill into legitimate businesses, they would be great because they have great follow-up skills. They have great, what I call, longevity and work habits, and so that's the whole key in any business, really. And you got to have that follow-up so that you can get the income coming through because the cash flow is really what a good, well-managed business operates off of.
Well, there you have it. Thank you so much for sharing your wisdom with us today, Dennis. 30 plus years in business and you are still going strong and you have a plan. So I really appreciate the wisdom that you've given us today. And thank you for being here.
Okay. Thank you too, Dominique. Yeah. I appreciate you always. Continue to do what you're doing, helping other businesses grow. Okay.
Thank you so much. Well, if you'd like to learn more about how Dennis Hempstead and Clean World USA can support your next project, visit cleanworldusa.com. That's cleanworldusa.com or contact Dennis directly at dhempstead@cleanworldusa.com. Well, that concludes today's episode of Intentionality. Be sure to join me for our next episode and remember that we must always remain intentional to gain knowledge, skills, and connections so we can grow and thrive in business together. I'm Dominique Simpson Milton, and I will see you next time.
This has been another episode of Intentionality with Dominique, brought to you by the CVMSDC. For more information, please visit cvmsdc.org.